how way, ay, 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 ay. How way up, how way up, ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. How way, ay, 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 ay. How way, ay, 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 ay.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to The Bridge. I'm your host, Kira Young, and you've reached me on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. We are also simulcasting tonight with Real Liberty Media, and we have an excellent show. Just wanted to tell you about, we have two sponsors now. Our first sponsor is DoneRightBuffaloSauce.com, which is the best buffalo sauce in the world out of New Brunswick, Canada. The owner of the company, Erica Dunn, grew up in the Niagara area, which, as you probably know, is just right over the bridge from Buffalo, New York. So she always experimented with different sauces, and just take my word for it, it's the best buffalo sauce I've ever had. It's at DoneRightBuffaloSauce.com, D-U-N-N, rightbuffalosauce.com. Check them out. And our new sponsor is HealthMax CBD products. This is a company owned by David and Suzanne Posel. They started the company because their child is vaccine injured and had a seizure disorder because of that vaccine injury, and they needed to find a medication that contained the cannabidiol that we actually all need and all could benefit from, whether you have arthritis or seizures or MS, any type of ailment with pain, and just general health and wellness. You can use the cannabidiol. We're all lacking in it. So they needed this product that didn't have the THC for their child. And there's probably a lot of us who want to medicate maybe arthritis or something like that, but don't want to be high, walking around high all the time. So it's a great little alternative. And the Bridge with Kira listeners get 20% off when they use the code Kira420. All right. So now that we've got that out of the way, I'm really excited about the product, and I'll let you know how my own arthritis symptoms, and I have two autoimmune diseases that I'm treating naturally, celiac disease and rheumatoid arthritis. And as my listeners know, I've climbed my way out of a hole. I got off of all pharmaceutical medications. At one point I was on Percocet, methadone, and NSAID medications, and I got off everything. So, but some joint damage is done. Even though it's not progressing, there's still pain and inflammation to medicate there. So I'll let you all know how it goes. So far, when is Mercury retrograde over? Is it over yet? For goodness sake, this is awful. Okay. Believe me, we will get a really good show going. Okay, here we go. There we go. I think I got the right one.
Kira.
Hi, welcome back to the Bridge.
Thank you, and thank you for having me again. I appreciate it. Yes, so I'd like to say hello to all your listeners again. I am at Prairie Knights Casino, taking advantage of the media room. There is free Wi-Fi here, and I'm working on a post right now on the Treaty of 1868. I'm trying to get down to the nitty-gritty of it for people to write it plainly. I strongly feel that if people want to support us in this conflict over the pipeline, then they should be, or at least have a basic understanding of what the treaty says, because our claims are based on the treaty, and it is the Treaty of 1868 between the Lakota people and the federal government of the United States.
Tell me how this latest development of the Cannonball Ranch getting sold to Dakota Access is going to affect everything.
Well, it's interesting because North Dakota, the state of North Dakota, has an anti-corporate farming law on the books where agricultural land cannot be passed this easily, and there are only certain very few exceptions to that law. And I do not think Dakota Access Pipeline and its owners are very much interested in agriculture. And so that I've already read in the Bismarck Tribune in an article, I believe it was posted yesterday, perhaps earlier this morning, that attorneys are already looking into that and are actively finding up a law. And I'm sure a response will be forthcoming in the coming week.
So that's the legal way that they're going to...
That's the legal way to it. Mm-hmm. And, it's funny, Kira. The first thing that struck me was that before the protection actions began in earnest, we were told that the landowners were allies in this, that they had their land condemned and lost through eminent domain for an access road for the pipeline through the Buffalo Ranch to the drill site along the Missouri River. And I do not know how that dynamic changed, except that I didn't see the price they paid for the Buffalo Ranch, but I'm sure it is a handsome sum.
Yeah.
And, it just goes to show, choose your allies carefully. If all this is true, it appears they were bought off. Mm-hmm. And the land was of little concern to them at all.
Yeah, it was really the fact that their rights had finally been violated that they finally understood. But I guess instead of them just taking it through eminent domain, then they got money. So I guess they didn't care as much. But now that they own it, they can cover up more of what they've already destroyed.
Yeah, and plus any land they lost through eminent domain, they were paid fair market value for. I'm sure they were paid price higher than fair market value for the entire ranch.
Yeah.
So we will see. That's just
bet.
a position on my part. So.
Yeah, I mean it's only it's an assumption, but it's probably a likely assumption.
Yes.
Yeah. Now,
but I can tell you, life in camp. Oh, go ahead. If you have a question, please ask.
Oh, I just wanted to say, I just wanted you to explain a little bit the difference between where this so-called privately owned land is and where you guys are. You're actually on Army Corps of Engineer land, so
so-called Army Corps of Engineer land,
right?
Yes.
So it's unceded treaty land, and basically by camping there, you guys are taking it back.
That's how I feel, and that has to be our stance from this moment forward, is that we have reclaimed this land now. We have no intention of giving it back. I would hope that the leadership that is representing our interest in this will begin seriously advocating for that position. That these are unceded treaty lands. Every portion of land that has diminished the size of Lakota country as defined in the Treaty of 1868 is illegal. One of the articles of the treaty, sections of the treaty, they're called articles, is Article 12, and that requires in no ambiguous language whatsoever that any sale or cession of any portion of Lakota country must be agreed to by 3/4 of the adult male population. That has never once occurred, yet our country has been greatly diminished through unilateral acts of Congress. And, we need to have these issues addressed. Oceti Sakowin and the strength of Oceti Sakowin, the strength of all the nations together, this is an opportunity to press these issues. And I've been advocating that we press these issues not only to the Obama administration, but to the World Court and the United Nations as appropriate. I know Mr. Archambault spoke before the United Nations earlier this week. I have not been able to read the text or hear.
We're getting a lot of wind right now.
Yeah, Kira, it is a very blustery day here.
Oh, goodness.
and I am due to get a signal. I have got to be out in the open, so I'm trying to angle myself as such.
Okay.
I apologize.
Oh, my goodness, that's terrible. Okay. Okay, so the local population must be very nervous about this because, if they're paying attention, they would know that all of that unceded land that they supposedly own, they don't really own. So I imagine that the Dakota Access people would easily be able to convince the local so-called landowners that you guys are their enemies.
Yeah, unfortunately, due to the signal, Kira, I did not hear the entirety of your statement question.
Okay. So, because of what you're saying about the reality of the treaty and the legality of the treaty, the so-called landowners around there must be kind of scared if they're paying attention, because if they're paying attention, they would know that the land that they own, they don't really own.
Of course, absolutely. Yeah. And well, that perhaps to me gets to even some of the racial animosity that exists towards our people, and that they know that the history of where they live, they're fully aware of it, and that their state, their town, their country is founded upon lies and theft by the federal government and others. They're illegitimate where they are until, the treaty is finally recognized and honored. Our land, where we're at right now, on Ochete Shakoni, there's several lands similar to that along the west side of the Missouri River extending up to Mandan, about 25 miles north of Ochete Shakoni Camp. And what I'm hoping to see, right now we are obviously busily preparing for winter camps at Ochete Shakoni, but in the spring I would like to see our people begin to occupy so-called Corps of Engineer land within our treaty boundaries and just start reclaiming it in that manner, and to demand the conditions of our treaty lands. And I believe we have the numbers now, and we have the material support to do this in a good way. Just to use the Ochete Shakoni as the model, as the blueprint on how to proceed from now on in our dealings with them. Because we have shown that with merely prayers and pipes and sage in our hands, we can beat them. Because the only response they have to it so far has been with riot gear, automatic weapons, chemical weapons, attack dogs. They don't know how to confront this. And I think actually we're setting a blueprint for all people who are in these struggles against industry and government, because it's not just you're fighting an industry or you're fighting a government, they're in bed together.
Right.
Everyone knows industry and government go hand in hand in the United States. So we're showing how to fight them. And unless they are willing to use violence against us, they have no way to confront it. And that, again, goes back to the illegitimacy of their entire system, of their entire country. That they have nothing to stand on except the power they have attained through the end of a barrel of a gun. And then that is the only way they are in the position that they are in the world today. The economic superpower, the lone superpower. They attain to that position over the graves of our ancestors, over the graves of our children today, who continue to suffer from their economic violence, who continue to suffer from their environmental violence, their police state. This is a chance for us to address all of this in a good way, and in a way that they really can't handle. It took us a little over 100 years now to find the strength to rise up. It took us a little over 100 years for a new moccasin telegraph to emerge, where news is transported from tribe to tribe as quickly as possible. That moccasin telegraph is the internet, social media. We haven't needed NBC, ABC, CBS, and all the others here, because we have you, Kira, and others like you, our own media, underground, revolutionary, indigenous, and we are using those resources to maximum effect currently, and we need to continue that as long as possible into the future.
And I'm definitely committed, this show to the struggle, to the resistance, and I want you to win. I really, really do, because it will not only be a wonderful thing for the people. And this isn't just a Standing Rock issue. And at this point, it's not even just a Lakota stand. This is all Indigenous people are coming together with this resistance. The whole Eagle and the Condor prophecy. That is the northern and the northern and the southern tribes coming together.
Yes, absolutely. And like earlier today, I was talking with a young man, very well spoken, very articulate, and very passionate from the Hoopa in Northern California. And he was sharing me stories with me of all different tribes from California, his own people. And that is an everyday occurrence multiple times a day, where if you walk around the camp, and it is a rather large camp to cover in one day, you'll hear all these stories from all these different nations, and not just Indigenous, too. There are many allies there of all walks of life. I don't like to use the word race, but I'll say from all walks of life and from everywhere around the world. I just saw say goodbye to some Native Hawaiians who were here, and they've been here for a couple of weeks, and now they have to depart. That's why I encourage everyone, if you feel a calling to come to Ochete, and you have the material resources or the type of assistance you need to get here. You can see what everyone's talking about. This is one of the rare instances where, at least for the time being, you can believe the hype, and that there is a special place where it's a little bit different world going on right now. And, if you feel the calling to come, and that's what so many have talked about, a calling, a vision, a dream, a feeling, just knowing they had to be there, and that's why they came, and some have no resources. They made it hitchhiking. They made it any way they could by the skin of their teeth, but they found when they got there, they no longer had any material needs because they were taken care of, in a good way. So I would definitely encourage everyone who feels they should be there to come, almost all of the camp is welcoming and inviting. It's a couple thousand people out in the middle of nowhere. There's one or two that maybe aren't entirely with the program, but most of us are. Right now there's a tremendous spirit of cooperation in the camp because we are making winter camps. Committees have been formed to address camp needs, for security and sanitation, and then to deal with the media and even the finances of the camp. And these committees are open to anyone who wants to join and attend the meetings. They have an equal voice in them. That is what is happening right now. We are getting ready for winter, and the spirit among the people who are planning on winter camp is strong. The only thing is, as calls go out for the material things that will be needed to survive the Northern Plains winter, I just hope people respond to it. If they can't be here, if they can't be here physically, then they can materially support the camp, because winters here can be particularly cruel. They can be lethal. With sustained days of below zero weather and days-long blizzards. You could go to bed at night with forecasts of a chance of flurries overnight and wake up to a foot of driving snow. There's just no way to know for sure. Now, the past few winters have been fairly mild compared historically, but we don't know, what's going to happen for sure. Best to be prepared, and we are trying to prepare as best we can.
Have you seen more teepees come in and more maybe yurts and things like that are more sort of semi-permanent structures to?
Yes, and in fact, I know plans are actively underway among the leadership and others, particularly at Sacred Stone Camp. LaDonna Allard is doing a tremendous job from what I can see. I'm sure there might be other leaders involved, but she's the one that I tend to see the most in them getting information and resources out to people and planning for, the winter camp here. So just if people continue to monitor their social media, continue to tune into your show and other programs that are covering what is happening, then they will find the information that they need to know.
Yeah, you've advocated for people really just picking a family, like sponsoring a family that's made a commitment to stay for the winter, because there are a lot of needs that are handled by the camp, but everybody that's there also has to keep their other house going as well. So
That's
it's
right.
really very difficult for some.
It is. When you do have a home, like my home is relatively close. It's only a couple hour drive south. But all the bills got to get paid there, and then there is the expense for gasoline, back and forth. And just when you're living in a camp, things arise, emergencies arise. If people are available for that, if someone were to have a sick relative that they needed to attend to, or something worse, if they had a way to turn to someone who could immediately render assistance to them, that would be tremendous, and badly needed. Our people are the poorest people in the United States. The reservation that I come from, Vibok County, is half of that reservation, Cheyenne River, and for years it was the poorest county in the United States. Not anywhere in the South, some inner city somewhere. No, right here in Lakota country. Mm-hmm. So these are the people, the grassroots people, that are the flesh and blood of those camps. They are the resistance movement, the active resistance movement. And we've seen what resistance movements can do. When the Treaty of 1868 was agreed to, that was because of a successful and fierce resistance that Chief Red Cloud of the Oglala led against encroachments into our country at that time. And it's the only time that I'm aware of in the history of the United States where they sued an indigenous nation for peace during wartime. Because we led such a fierce resistance then, and had major victories and tremendous battles. And it was during that time where those names passed into legend, fighting for Lakota country, names like Red Cloud, and in particularly a young man named Crazy Horse, distinguished himself fighting for our country.
And for the people, the whole idea of what it means to be a warrior has changed over time as colonialization has taken hold. But I feel like this movement here is redefining that back to a more traditional, I'm going to say, sense of what it means to be a warrior, which is more of a self-sacrificing person than anything else.
Lila Wichawala, I really agree with what you just said. Sitting Bull, in the last years of his life, has a well-known statement, a quote that he made, and I can't quote it exactly, but he gets to exactly what you're talking about, Kira, that our ideas of being a warrior are much different than those who belong to the army or cavalry. That our idea of warrior was that you put all others above yourself, that you took care of the elderly, that you took care of the sick, that you protected children. You lived your life in a way that should be exemplary. And you were only fierce when you had to be fierce. Lakota thinking, it runs along these lines. In battle, back in the day, when we used to award eagle feathers for acts of courage or bravery or honor, the highest honor you could receive was not for killing someone in battle. Rather, it was for counting coup. And counting coup is an act where you were engaged in battle and you had what was generally called a coup stick just for this purpose, and you struck the enemy with that coup stick, and then you went back. You left them standing and alive, and what you left them with was the shame of it. That was more important than killing your enemy. And being able to talk about that night after a battle that you counted coup, you would go from camp to camp, and they would have you tell your story, and honor songs would be sung for you. And you would be presented with a specially crafted eagle feather for counting coup. That was more important than killing people. That is the way we fought. That is the way we fought our battles until we were forced to kill these large numbers of soldiers who were in our country, killing our people, killing our women and children, and attacking villages full of them. That was the only response we could have.
That was the response to try to save the people
Absolutely, and it was resistance that did it, and the resistance that was necessary at that time. And today we are doing the same thing. We are offering up a resistance that is necessary for this time, this place, in this specific circumstance. And now that we do have an emerging, unified indigenous movement, we will meet their greed and avarice with resistance wherever necessary, hopefully, from now on.
I do hope so. So far, the tricks of the past haven't been working, but I'm sure they'll develop some new ones. But we can still look to the same MO. They have a playbook. They've used it many times. So if we keep studying that playbook, we'll see these the MO emerge from time to time in this struggle.
We will.
Yeah.
Kira, I've totally lost track of time here. Can you just tell me quickly what time it is?
Yeah, 4:36. So we got about 15 more minutes here before I'm going to talk to Dandelion. And so far I haven't heard back from Linda, so I guess she just got into a hole or something and couldn't get.
Well, I'll tell you, that is most unfortunate, and I know you'll have an opportunity to have her again in the future.
Oh, and, absolutely.
She is doing tremendous work in Ochente Shukoi when it comes to tending to the sick and tending to those with chronic conditions who are present in camp. Linda is an ethnobotanist, and in my opinion, the finest in her field in the entire country. I understand that she recently has been placed in trust with coordinating all the herbalists who are there. And they are dissuading people away from, pharmaceutical medications, even over-the-counter stuff, in favor of our natural herbs and remedies. And there are vast stores of them there. And there are many, many kind and even sweet volunteers there, practitioners who will meet your every need. I mean, they're even offering massages freely. If you need to get rid of some stress, get rid of some tension, or work a particular sore spot on your body. Cold, flu, it's all being treated with what was been available to our people for centuries. And you're not hearing very many complaints about it at all.
And then she's also growing food too. I saw that she and her husband were harvesting Lakota squash to dry for soups and things like that, as well as a few other things. So she's got the food sovereignty thing going for her as well.
Absolutely. And she is a tireless advocate for it. And she knows the potential that our people have. And she knows the resources that we have that we haven't even begun to tap yet in terms of land and water. Out here in Lakota country and Stand Rock, Cheyenne River, all we have is land with grass and these rivers and lakes. Yet we import all our own food. There's something really wrong with that picture.
Yeah.
There should be no need for that. That's the system that we've been forced to be a part of for well over 100 years now. When we could easily be sustaining ourselves with good, healthy food, instead, no. We go to the local grocery store or travel to the closest Walmart supercenter and load up our carts with the food that's already proven to, especially among indigenous people, to be responsible for our epidemic rates of diabetes and heart disease and cancer.
Yeah, and so they say that natives are genetically predispositioned to diabetes, and that actually isn't true. Natives are no more genetically predispositioned toward diabetes than anyone else. It's just that when your people go from eating buffalo and berries to fry bread and other highly processed foods, there was no time for the metabolisms to adjust to such a huge difference.
Absolutely.
So
one of the things I like educating people about, Kira, is fry bread. And to get them to understand that how fry bread began as subsistence food at the, when the reservation periods began. It was the only plentiful rations that were available, lard and flour, and it was food that filled empty stomachs. And it was unhealthy food, as you already say, too high in starch for our people, far too high in starch, because we weren't used to that amount of starch in our diets. But we ate a lot of fry bread because it was all that we really had, and it filled your tummy for a while. Mm-hmm. And so it was subsistence food. It was survival food. And the way our people today embrace fry bread is unfortunate. Something that could be enjoyed in moderation, if just, occasionally, instead has become a staple. And as we've already talked about, with that, item of food becoming a staple in our diets has led to.
Yeah.
I try to tell people about fry bread and put it in the historical context of why it came to be what it is. Lakota never had anything near fry bread, before the arrival of the colonizers.
So it's really a symbol of both the survival and the destruction of the people.
Absolutely.
So what became a coping mechanism or a survival mechanism, which was, you had to eat the rations that were there.
Right.
Yeah, as now it's time to let it go. And I think all of Indian countries should be gluten-free. That's my own personal feeling.
And you've made me just as passionate about that as you are, and that's one of the nice things about Ocheta Shikoni is finding out all this additional information to add to the arsenal, Yeah. There's no such thing as, having too many arrows in your quiver in a fight. As you loose an arrow and somebody fires back at you, you better have another arrow to fire back towards them. And having this information, not just the nutritional facts, but the historical background, the context to it all, will enable our people who are advocating to our own people for healthier lifestyles. That only bolsters and improves, the reasons why we need to do this, and not just talk about it, but actually get about the business.
You know what I would love?
Changing our context.
I'm just going to put this out there in the universe. Something I would love to do is to get a food truck, one that I would take to powwows, but it would be all traditional foods, maybe some fusions, traditional foods and fusions with good healthy foods to serve at powwows instead of fry bread.
Oh, that'd be a great truck. I'd be hanging around that truck every time I was hungry. No, that's a great idea, Kara. Absolutely. And then, the fusion's a great way to put it. I'm familiar with fusion cuisine somewhat, and, what it does mix and match and blend, and among our people, I had some smoked salmon the other day, and it was absolutely delicious, and I topped that off with just a little bit of sugar-free wojapi, which is a traditional pudding among the Lakota. That was a nice blend to have that, smoked salmon that came to us from the Nisqually people in the Pacific Northwest, and then top it off with some nice Lakota wojapi, sugar-free.
Wow, yummy!
It was one of my more favorite meals here, and it was just as basic as that.
That sounds delicious. So when you were talking earlier, I just wanted to get philosophical for a minute here about the illegitimacy of the federal, because of the treaty, the illegitimacy of the federal government's rulings really on this. So where I'm going with this is part of this movement is relying on the system that's in place. So the legal system that's in place, the tribe going to the court, to the federal court, and asking the federal court to make a decision about something. Then they make a decision, which is illegal anyway in the first place, right? Because of the treaty. And then the Obama administration and the Department of the Army and the Department of the Interior, they came out with their statement about the injunction. So I'm just wondering here about your thoughts on the legal aspect of this fight, given the treaty situation.
I'll tell you.
Go ahead,
we're participating in a rigged game. And we're forced to participate in this rigged game, and we always have been forced to participate in this rigged game. The Indian Claims Commission back in the 1920s came out here in order to settle the Lakota claim to the Black Hills. They awarded, I believe it was a $17 million judgment at that time. We have consistently rejected that. In 1980,
Blistery. Can you repeat that last thing? It just got blistery there for a second.
No, I'm sorry. In 1980, Sioux Nation versus the United States, which involved the Black Hills claim, reached the United States Supreme Court. Part of the court's ruling held that a more ripe and rank case of dishonorable dealing in their country's history in all likelihood could not be found. And they still ruled against us in upholding the original claim plus simple interest. I mean, how much simple interest on the original claim? You know, what more can we do? When the supreme justices of your land, the Supreme Court of, well, not your land, their land, decide that you can't get more dirty dealing than this, but we're still going to rule against you. The Black Hills aren't yours; they're ours now. Take this chump change for what they have extracted in natural resources. They have to put a monetary value on it, let alone the damage they have done to our people spiritually and mentally with their rape of the Black Hills. And what can we do? Well, I don't understand engaging in a rigged game. If you were sitting down with somebody at cards and you knew they were cheating, would you keep playing with them? Of course not. No sane person would.
Right.
But these are the only avenues currently available to us. We have to play the game. We have to jump through the hoops. But in addition to doing that, we're maintaining active resistance. The camps aren't going anywhere. We've got that unified people, hundreds of people willing to put their bodies on the line, to sacrifice their very lives, to stand up against this, not just this pipeline, but all pipelines, all degradation of the earth, continued degradation of the earth.
Does it seem, well, to me it seems the strategy is to make it so expensive so expensive for the oil companies to try to put these pipelines in that they'll just give up.
And not just that, Kira, but we already have tapped them. We've already drained them. Part of the mobilization of the National Guard in North Dakota was to free up financial resources for a stressed Morton County, for a stressed North Dakota State Patrol. I was always hoping and still hoping that we can do multiple actions in multiple sites simultaneously, and watch them try to respond to that. Drive them to distraction because they don't have the resources to meet those type of, peaceful direct actions to, prayer protests at multiple sites. They just don't have the resources, and hopefully maybe that is something that's planned in the future. Mm-hmm. I'm very hopeful. I know that they're reeling financially and otherwise, and not just oil companies, but governments as well. And we need to keep them on their heels and keep just rocking them back and forth until they finally tip over. And that's our business now.
And as the resistance continues and it gets attention, like the decision that the court recently made, the federal court, about the tribe's injunction, people saw that. They saw how it's a rigged game. So the veil lifts every time you play this rigged game. People see that it's rigged.
Absolutely.
So
and then it's like they're their own worst enemies. It's like the one thing I've heard around camp a lot from people over the past couple of weeks was the action where the dogs were loose on our people, and my daughter was killed. That brought so many people out to us actually physically, because I've heard several times how once I saw that video, I had to come. Once I saw them using dogs on our people, I had to be here. I couldn't just sit at home on my computer. I couldn't just, look at my phone and sit idly by any. I had to move. So their own actions, their court decisions, their responses to us with attack dogs, with riot gear and weaponized drones. That's only helping us more because it's going to show the truly evil nature of the enemy we are facing. The avarice and greed and the willingness to go to any extreme so that they maintain their profits.
The pathology.
Their shareholders. Yes, very good. That's right. The pathology of it all. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So every time. Oh, go ahead.
And the rigged, the fact that it's rigged. Once you see that, you can't unsee it. So it's just that act of continuing to resist that allows people to see it. It might not work the first time for the most stubborn mind, but maybe the second or the third time they see it, then they finally realize, wow, this is a rigged game.
Right. Absolutely. And there's no negotiating with them either. I keep hearing about negotiations, Kira. What is there to negotiate? Mm-hmm. There's nothing. You've heard me say this repeatedly. Because it's true. What is there to sit down at the table about? We're going to allow them to build half a pipeline. No. It's either the pipeline gets built or it doesn't. So the lines are clearly drawn to me. And where one stands on that is, how one conducts oneself.
And the people within the movement will continue to work things out like, should you cover your face or not? Is it moral to destroy property or not? Well,
those are conundrums that I personally don't really concern myself with.
Yeah.
They're all, those are all extraneous to the real issues at hand here. Mm-hmm. And anytime you have that larger group of people together, not everyone's going to agree on everything, but we do agree on one thing, which is stopping this pipeline.
Yes.
So same team, different strategies, different playbooks, but as long as we continue together working towards that goal of officially killing this pipeline and all the others they've got on the drawing board, that's the important thing. Is that we continue to work in that direction together. Whether we do it as one or we do it in different ways and at different times, and as long as we all continue to work towards stopping this pipeline.
So, how many people do you think will winter camp?
It would only be in the hundreds, I'd say right now. We're already, the weekends. This weekend is, bustling a little bit, but you're noticing a decrease as the year wears on here.
Mm-hmm.
And by now it normally should be cold up here. It's kind of really pleasant except for all the wind. Yesterday was a day of rain in camp. There's mud everywhere. There's still mud everywhere this morning. We had steady rain, but the weather eventually is going to factor into who's in it and who's not. But right now, I would say at least 300 to 500 are seen committed to a winter camp, but the numbers are less than that. They're less than that. I can tell you personally, Kira, as long as I am able to secure what I need for a winter camp, I'm not going anywhere myself. But I know I'm not alone when I make that statement. I know it.
Have you been able to get Arctic sleeping bags yet?
No, not yet, but I haven't really put out a call yet.
Okay.
I've been involving myself around the camp. We did have a group of students stay with us from California for a week, and that kind of slowed lots of things down, except for the direct actions. They were very involved in direct action. So my fair camp around me is pretty basic. I stick close to my GP, except for when I do travel. Like yesterday, I wasn't feeling well for a couple of days. I went to a Bismarck truck stop and paid for a hot shower. $5 to luxuriate for about 15 minutes under a steady stream of hot water. The free showers that are available to the campers here, and gratefully so, aren't always hot. And I had taken 3 consecutive, I would call cold showers, and I was ready to pay $5 at a truck stop in Bismarck to take off. That's
the reality of camp life, but you make up for it in the songs that you hear all day and all night.
Everything like that.
Yeah.
And like I said, just the sitting around the fires and talking and getting all the different stories and different personalities and just watching how it's all come together, to form this movement, to form, a unified people. And it's a really remarkable thing that has occurred here.
And we even have a Two-Spirit camp that has emerged.
Oh, they relocated right across the road from me, our camp. They were down by the river, and for reasons I'm not entirely sure of, they set up camp right across the road from us. Their leader, for lack of a better word, is a very, very articulate, very knowledgeable young man. I only know him by one name. And I'm not going to share it because I don't know if he'd want to share it or not. But talking with him was enlightening for me. He carries a lot of knowledge for someone so young, and I shared that opinion with him. That I enjoyed listening to him talk and the way he spoke on behalf of Two-Spirit people. And it's good to see the support they've been getting. They had a really nice fire the other night, a lot of good talk, a lot of good news.
Well, we have reached the end of our hour. Thank you so much for filling in, and it was a pleasure to talk to you. And we'll get Linda in real soon. Stick around for Dandelion. Powerful words and vision by our friend Oompa Noompa, who we've been talking with from the beginning when he got there. And we're going to continue to follow his story as it relates to this resistance, this indigenous-led resistance to stop the pipeline. Oompa Noompa's got the magic phone that gets a signal during my show, and he's got the willingness to stand out in the wind for an hour so that you know what's really going on there in camp. So I'm so thankful for my friend Oompa Noompa. And I'm so thankful for the listeners who care so much about this resistance. I hope you hear that there's a hummingbird above my head right now. They are still here. But fall is definitely upon us. It's a beautiful, crisp morning, and I've got a big old hooded sweatshirt on, and hi, beautiful. I love you so much. Oh, you're so beautiful and captivating. Right in my face, aren't you, sweetheart? Hi. I just changed the feeders too, so she's digging on the fresh nectar that I made for her. In the second hour, you're going to hear from Dandelion, who's also another highly intelligent, creative, and compassionate individual with strong vision and a big heart. So thanks again for listening, and we'll continue to bring you this story from the front lines, and we'll continue to offer you information that's available nowhere else. Not in the mainstream, not in the Indian media, and not in the rest of the alternative media. And I guess my show will continue to defy category, just like me. Thanks for listening.